Recently, while riding on a bus through one of the low-income communities in Los Angeles called MacArthur Park, as I sat there, I sensed I was being watched. And I looked up, and there was an adorable toddler looking over the shoulder of her mother at me and studying me. And I looked around the bus to see if anyone else was watching, and then I pulled out all my best tricks of how I was going to entertain her. My favorite one being peekaboo. But then the real reality hit. Was she going to become one of the 5,000 reports of child abuse in this neighborhood? Or the 1 in 3 who would struggle with obesity and diabetes? Or the 1 in 2 who wouldn't graduate from high school and her life would be at great risk of poverty, jail, and homelessness? What troubles me is how our society looks and addresses social problems. We have large, sinking ships. They're huge, as big as transatlantic cruisers, and they're sinking. And what do we do about it? Our society sends out a few lifeboats, and sometimes a few more lifeboats, and sometimes some dinghies, and sometimes some more sophisticated lifeboats, but still the ship is sinking. And some of our neighborhoods are like sinking ships. And in this 21st century of a global economy that's highly competitive, their futures are drowning. And the lifeboats we send out are services that come after children and youth are seriously damaged and falling behind. In Los Angeles County, there are 3,000 reports of child abuse every week. And that county department responsible for protecting children and youth from child abuse spends $2 billion every year to help children and youth after they've been abused. But they only spend $10 million helping children before they become abused. What I'm saying may seem obvious, but it's not. And in fact, there's great resistance from others because of the way our systems have been set up. And this resistance is based on two false beliefs. First, the government and our tax dollars should not be spent to prevent problems because that's really the responsibility of the family and nonprofits. But government fails to recognize that our tax dollars and our government end up having to clean up the situation at a high cost, and candidly, many of these problems cannot be cleaned up. The second false belief is that when we see some parents and worry about how they're raising the children, the solution that we come up with is one to replace parents with services. We can't recognize the fact that there's no way we can afford to replace a parent with services, and we can't do it in the first place. For the last 5 years, we've tried to do and approach our work very differently. We have a constellation of 75 nonprofit, faith-based, government, and for-profit organizations working together in a new way, where some of the institutions and organizations that are involved are a bank, child development centers, schools, job training, health clinics, legal services, all working to make sure that no matter how a person enters one of the organizations, they're connected to all the other organizations should they need them. So even if a person is coming into one of our financial institutions, they're connected to organizations that help them with their health, education, and economic stability and parenting. And we have multiple hubs in the community that allow families to more easily access them. One of the hubs is a Catholic parish that has 10,000 parishioners. Another is an elementary school and family centers. They go beyond by helping residents be socially connected. This is critical because isolation and lack of resources compromise a family's success. And importantly, the community ambassadors also motivate families to volunteer, everything from leading a play and learn group to cleanup campaigns to babysitting for one another. A couple of examples are, we recently had 14 parents graduate from their training, and now they are starting play and learn groups for infants and toddlers and their parents in the neighborhood. And what's more, they're not just leading these groups, they're recruiting families to participate in them. That's what Children's Bureau is doing as the backbone to the Magnolia Community Initiative that I've been speaking about. And we're doing this in partnership with 3 other organizations. And our organizations are also measuring and evaluating how we're doing. We measure comprehensive child and youth outcomes, measure the behavior of parents and the behavior of the organizations, and we share this information with the organizations and with the residents in the community so we can work together to improve. This is how we create a social movement to ensure that our vulnerable neighborhoods are buoyant and staying afloat instead of using a solution where we are going to have to send out more lifeboats. Yes, this is ambitious. In this era of limited government dollars and limited philanthropy, it's also essential. The work of the Magnolia Community Initiative is being felt across this country, with 7 other cities taking some of the learning and replicating that into their own practice to better their communities. We can lift entire neighborhoods and their children and youth out of danger and into success. Thank you very much.